my quilt too. There are a lot of people going live today. Just adjust this camera. So you can always watch this later. I just wanted to come on and say hi and wish everybody a happy new year. Let's see, let me get organized here. Hopefully I have good enough service. How my service is. Kind of dark, huh? Okay. Hi, Jim. How are you doing tonight? Happy New Year. Gotta get my chat to work. There. Hi, Mary. Happy New Year. Hi, Robin. Thanks for joining me. Happy New Year. Oh, good. Oh, boy, we had like, I would say 1.5 feet of snow today. It started snowing late yesterday, and it kept going all night. So when I got up in the morning, I was like, oh my God. Hi, Tiffany. So my husband and I, we have a ATV with a plow on it. So I got on that and started plowing, and my husband got the truck with the plow and he started plowing. And so it took me a couple hours. I'm feeling pretty rough today tonight. So I'm probably going to be all stoked up tomorrow. But, you know, it's still fun. Get out there and do a little plowing and check out the snow, be in the snow. And it kept snowing the whole time I was out there too. But, yeah, and now it's snowing again. So we'll probably have to go back out tomorrow and start some more plowing. So, well, Robin says she got 6 inches. That's not too bad. All right, so I know there's a lot of people going live today, but like I said, I just thought I'd come on here and wish everybody a happy new year, and I thought we could talk about what you need to do to send your quilt to a Longarmer. Oh, can you guys hear me okay? I forgot to put my mic on. Dang. Well, I could do it now. You can hear. Is it better with the mic? Whoops, all these things you got to do. Okay, it is better. All right, good. Okay, so I don't know if you guys send your quilts out to a Longarmer or not, or if you have questions about that. If you're coming back after the live, then you must have questions about it. Okay, so I made a list. Me and my lists. Oh, good. Thanks, Tiffany. All right. So you got all these quilts. You have 800 tops completed, and they're in your closet. And you don't want to quilt them yourselves, but you need to get these done, right? So what do? Well, if you're not going to do them yourself, you need to find a Longarmer, one that you can afford and one that you can trust. So how do you do that? Hi, Angie. Thanks for joining us. Well, the first thing you could do is look around locally in your area, and like your local quilt shops, a lot of them do long arming. Give them a call and find out if they do long arming. If they don't, do they know who does? Can they recommend anybody? The other place you can find long armors is on Facebook, believe it or not, but you can find them there. Another way would be in magazines. I've seen a lot of ads in the back of magazines for long armors. You can also find them on YouTube. I think one of the best ways to find them is through your friends. So do your friends send out their quilts to a long armor? Is there somebody that they can recommend? Because, you've put a lot of work into your quilt and you want somebody you feel comfortable with. Totally understandable. First time I did a quilt for somebody else, I was so nervous. I'll tell you. Luckily, she was a good friend of mine and she trusted me with her quilt. She's like, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. But I was still nervous. But prior to that, I had done all my own quilting, and then I did several, like close to 60 donation quilts that our group puts together. They're just little baby quilts or a little bit bigger, and they go in the police cars. And so if somebody needs a blanket, a quilt, they have one, and I did all of those. And that's how I got most of my practice in. So anyway, but I'm getting off the subject. Hi, Brenda. So, yeah, so one of the best ways is through a friend. The next thing you want to do, so you want to call, if you don't have a friend that's recommending anybody, you want to call more than one long armor. You want to call around and get the prices, because there's no set price. Every long armor charges something different. So also when you call, you might want to ask for references. Can they provide references? Do they have examples of the work that they've done? The one thing about references, like at a quilt shop, they're always going to give you people who have been happy with them. I mean, they wouldn't give you somebody else. So, and Jim says he has seen it on eBay. Interesting. Huh. So the other thing you want to know is if it's not going to be at a quilt shop, is the person that you're hiring doing it at their own shop, or are they doing it at home? Okay. The other thing you want to know, if they're doing it at home or in their shop, do they smoke? Is a big one. A lot of people are allergic to cigarettes. Do they have pets? Do they allow the pets in with the quilting? Some people are allergic to pets. What about perfumes? I'm really allergic to perfumes, so I don't care for it when I receive a quilt that has a lot of perfumey smell. It's like they sprayed it down so it wouldn't smell like something, I don't know. And I got to hang those up outside. So those are some good questions for you to ask. The other thing is the location. Now, if you don't have a quilt shop in your area, or you just want to check out other Longarmers, consider sending your quilt out, because I noticed, well, I belong to a lot of groups on Facebook, and they're for Longarmer people. They're private groups, and I was really surprised about how people charged for doing their quilting. They really, there's a big variance. And some people charge by the square inch. Some people charge by the hour. Some people will charge just to load the quilt. And then the price that they give you per square inch varies dramatically. And I noticed that in more populated areas, it costs more. And in rural areas, it's less. So think about that. So it might be less expensive for you to send it out in the mail, even though you're paying for postage. Okay, so hi, Ellen. So those that's the start of the things to think about. Let me look through your questions real quick, and then I'll keep going. Let's see. Mary says she has one Longarmer so far. You can use Best Press. I'm not sure. I use Best Press all the time, but I'm not sure what you're asking. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and keep going. So the other thing I want to talk about is preparing your quilt to send out. You want to make sure that it's been pressed, that you have pressed your seams down as flat as you can, that you have cut off all the extra threads hanging around, that you've looked for any ripped seams and repair those, because not every Longarmer will take care of those things for you. So that is another question you could ask them. If they find any rips or threads, are they going to take care of those? Is that an extra charge? For the backing, you want to, again, check with the Longarmer and find out what they require, because here again, they require different things, but for the most part, they want an extra 4 inches all the way around. So if your top, whatever your top comes out to be, they want the back to be 4 inches bigger all the way around. And that's because, and most of you have watched Tiffany's Quilting Life. She has a lot of videos that she shows her long arming, and on the side of the frame there's clamps, and you need enough room between your machine and the fabric that you're not bumping into the clamps. Otherwise it'll really mess up your quilting. So that's why they want that extra 4 inches. But again, check with them. Now so you want to have that backing cut and pressed and ready to go. If it's a pieced backing, now personally I prefer that a pieced backing is horizontal and not vertical. It doesn't always work out that way, but I prefer it because if it's vertical, then it creates this lump as you're rolling the quilt, and if it's a really big quilt, then you can get a really big lump in the middle, and that's kind of a pain. But now some people will tell you that the seams on your backing should be at least half an inch, and I think that's a good practice. They also tell you to iron those seams open. It doesn't matter to me personally if it's open or to one side, but unless it's flannel, and then I like it to be open. But always, always, always cut off the selvage. Please. Yes, I've had that happen. They left the selvage on in the seam, and I don't want to go through that with my needle, so I had to repair the quilt. So be sure and cut that selvage off. I think my chat stopped over here. I'm gonna oh, the perfume. The best press, the smell of best press doesn't bother me. Now, I don't know if, if it would bother other people. Of course, I do water down my best press a little bit, and most of the time I buy unscented. So I guess there could be that. Now, I have hung quilts up outside for a little while and let them air out just a little bit. Of course, they're in a safe place. I would never, leave it unattended. So, but that's a good point, Brenda. The smell of best press. And there might be some Longarmers out there that don't like that smell. I don't. Let's see. Hi, June. Trying to look for any questions so far. Oh, I like the linen scent. And some of that smell kind of, goes away, especially in the shipping process and stuff. Just don't put like fabric softener sheets or stuff like that in the box with it. I wouldn't do that, but Tiffany says she doesn't like any smells. Angie, yeah, I would try it. Give it a try. I don't know that those things really go bad, the starch, after a period of time. It might not be as strong as it once was, but so, all right, let's move on. We'll see any other questions here yet. So, do you have any questions on preparing your quilt to be sent in? Let me know. And of course, if you are watching this after the live, if you have questions, put them down in the comments and I'll be happy to answer those either right then or in another live video. Next time I will schedule this out a little bit more so more people could be here for more questions. Yeah, June, I agree. If the smells are too strong, it gives me a headache. Okay. I don't see any questions. So I'll go ahead and move on. Okay, so how much do they charge? How much are you going to charge me? Well, like I and how they charge, I'll be right back. Oh, there was one more thing I wanted to say about preparing your quilt. Now, on your quilt top and even on the backing, if you're piecing that back, make sure that the edges, the outside edges, are backstitched. Okay? That's really important because when it's on the long arm, it's getting stretched. And if those seams aren't backstitched, they're going to come loose. And that's like one of the first things I check when I get a quilt. If the seams on the back are not backstitched, I do it because I don't want it coming apart on me on the long arm. So make sure those are backstitched. As for the top, you want to do the same thing. Your last border that you put on, backstitch those stitches. Now, if you don't have a border, and I'm just going to use this as an example. If this was a quilt, which it will be, and I didn't put a border on it, then I would want to backstitch all of these. Or what you can do is go around and do a stay stitch and just stitch along like 1/8 of an inch, along the seam. Especially if you have a lot of little pieces in your border. You want to do that. That's the other thing I check when I get a quilt. I'll go like this, not too rough, but I will look and make sure that those are all back stitched, or that there's a stay stitch around the quilt. Very important, because not all long armors are going to repair that or fix those for free. That could be an extra charge because it takes time for them to take care of it. So that's the other thing to think about. All right. So how they charge, like I said, they're all different. Some of them charge by the square inch. Some of them charge by the hour. Some of them do both. Some people charge a loading fee. Yeah, it's pretty interesting being in that Facebook group, seeing what people charge. I never thought about charging a loading fee. But I can kind of see it for smaller quilts, because it still takes time to load it. But okay, so to get a general idea, let's say you have a quilt that is 50 by 50. So to figure out the square inch, you'd say 50 times 50 equals 2,500. That's 2,500 square inches. Most people charge pennies. So many pennies per square inch. So let's say they tell you, like, I'm going to do Missouri Star Quilt Company because I know, or the last time I checked, they did 3 cents per square inch. So you would do 2,500 times 0.03. So that quilt would cost you $75 just to have it quilted. All right, so what you need to find out is, like I said, do they charge just by the square inch? How are they going to charge you for that? What kind of quilting do they do? Are they going to do just edge to edge, or edge to edge with borders, or custom or mid custom? So what kind of quilting do you want on your quilt? Do they charge for thread? The top thread? Do they charge for the bobbin thread? Do they charge for batting? Do they charge for return shipping? Do you want to have the binding done by them? Do they charge for the binding, and how much is the binding? Do you want them to trim, square up and trim your quilt? Do they charge you for that? Do they charge you if they have to iron your quilt, or fix any seams, or fix any borders? There's those questions. What exactly is going to be included in the price of the quilting? Believe it or not, I have seen quilters out there who charge for the spool of thread and for the bobbins. Now, all those things are going up, and batting is going up. And batting is also getting thinner. So, normally, so those are the things. What all is included in that price, and so if they have to make repairs, what is their hourly rate to make repairs? Sometimes I've had people ask me if they can send me thread, and to help reduce the cost. And I have taken thread, as long as it's the kind of thread I like to use. If it's not a thread that my machine likes, then I don't take it. People will send me batting, which is fine. That does reduce the cost sometimes. Sometimes the price that you're quoted includes the batting, so you need to find that out. Sometimes you have to send the batting, and sometimes the Longarmer has batting. Some of them have different kinds. Some of them won't use, 80-20, or they only use cotton, or they only use wool, or some of them. So you need to decide what kind of batting you want and find out if they have that. If they don't, then you'll need to send it, and will they take it if you do send it? So that's another good question. Is their quilting computerized? So that means they don't, they have a computer on their Longarm machine, and it comes with a bunch of designs. They select it, they set it all up, and then they just let the machine go, and it makes a design. Is that the kind of quilting you're going to get? Is that what you want? Or do they do free motion quilting? So a lot of free motion quilters can do most of those designs. Is it cheaper to go computerized or free motion? No, I don't think so. It looks to me to be about the same price. However, what does increase, what I have seen increase, the least expensive is to do edge to edge, which would mean that no matter how many borders you have, you would get the same design throughout the whole thing. The next price increase is when they do something different in the outer border compared to what they do on the inside of the quilt. That costs a little bit more to have that done. Now, if you have more than one border, let's say you have a border on the outside and then a pieced border and then another solid border, and then, and you want something different in each thing, that's more of a mid-custom quilting and would cost you more. Then there's custom quilting, and that would be something different in all the borders, something different in the blocks. So if you have a quilt like the one I have there, I would do something different in each block here. These would be different. This would be different. The border would be different. Ow. So, and that takes a lot more time. You're breaking thread more often. The more times you have to break thread, the more expensive it is, because it takes more time. Okay. So you would find out if you can pick designs. You can be able to pick a design with a computerized system and a free motion system. Do they have examples of their work that you can see? Can you go there, or can they send you pictures, or do they have a Facebook group where they can see your work? Okay, then let's look at the questions. Well, I see I have Tiffany answering lots of stuff. That's good. All right. All right, let's see. See where I was. Jim doesn't like any smells either. Tiffany had someone bring in a quilt that smelled like a wet dog. I had somebody send me a quilt that had cat hair all over it, and I'm allergic to cats. I know I have a cat, but I had to put it outside for a little while, and then I brought it in, and I had to take my lint roller and get all the cat hair off of it. I wasn't very happy about it at all. And I got really plugged up. So think about that before you send. And I don't mind doing quilts for people who have dogs and cats. I just, shake your quilt out. Or throw it in the dryer on cold for a few minutes. Yeah, that I would say, Nita, I like it to be pressed. I'm mainly talking about the seams. Try to press your seams real good. I know it's going to get wrinkled in the shipping. There's nothing you can do about it. Just fold it up as nicely as you can and put it in the box and ship it away. And then when I have it out on the long arm, I will take my steam iron and just quickly go over it. And I've had to do that a lot with like wonky wavy borders. I'll spray them down and then take a steam iron so I can try and get them to shrink up a little bit. And so I can get some in quilt design. I can take up some of that extra fabric that's in there. Tiffany says, make sure that your applique is all stitched. Oh, that's a good point. So if you do have an applique quilt, it's important to let the Longarmer know whether you want quilting over the top of it or not. I know Tiffany just did one where the lady did not want any quilting over the top of the applique. So, and applique glue, whatever it's called, because it really mucks up the needle. It goes. It looks like I'm spinning a little bit. Dang it. Yeah, it is strange that they charge for the thread because the thread isn't used for just one person's quilt. I totally agree. So I was shocked when I saw that. My price always includes the thread. But she charges you for the whole spool of thread, and she never said whether she gives you the leftover. If I had her doing it, I would ask her for the leftover thread. And so, yeah. But that is a question that you need to ask the Longarmer. Are you being charged for thread or not? Um, yeah, sometimes if I'm quilting a quilt and I come across an open seam, if it's easy for me to fix, I'll go ahead. I try to find any problems before it goes on the long arm. Sometimes I will call the customer and say, hey, I found this. I might have to do something a little weird to fix it. This is one reason why I don't like seams pressed open, is because it's harder to repair an open seam than it is one where you have ironed your seams to one side. That is a lot easier to fix. However, I know there are times that we need to press our seams open, especially when you do crazy blocks like that one over there. Let's see. I'm losing sound off and on. Oh. Yeah, probably too many people on the internet. Maybe I moved away from the mic too far. How is it now? Okay, Brenda says she pays a flat rate of $10 for the thread. Tiffany's helping. Yes, you're helping, Tiffany. I appreciate it. Jim says he's broken needles on pinwheel blocks. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm sorry for the bad connection. Yeah, that's the internet connection when it does that. Sounds good, and then it gets a little scratchy. Okay. So get an estimate. Is that a firm estimate? Is that just an estimate, or is that actually what it's going to cost? I give a general ballpark. Like if somebody calls me and says this is what they got, and this is kind of the quilting that they want, I can give them a ballpark until they send me the quilt and I take a look at it, and then I can give them a true estimate. So there is that. So, they'll call you first and let you know that there's going to be a charge or not. If it's a small repair, I don't charge for it. I don't charge for trimming up your quilt, squaring it up, and trimming it. Some people do. A lot of people don't, but some people do. So that's a good thing to know. The other thing is what kind of time frame. When can you send them the quilt? How long will they have it? I always tell people the sooner you can get it to me, the better, because when I get a quilt, typically, and it hangs in the closet, and then I pull them out and do them as I go. So the sooner I get one, then the sooner you're going to get in line. Now I have squeezed in smaller projects where there was a time crunch for a quilt show or something like that. The other thing is insurance. Post office insurance does not exist. Okay? The post office cannot insure, will not, how do I say that? They have no way of telling what the value of your quilt is. Now, if you have receipts for all your fabric and you have receipts for your Longarmer for the quilting, then they should be able to cover that, but they're not going to cover your time because they have no way of knowing. Now, if you bought a quilt, say you bought one of Tiffany's quilts and you wanted insurance on that, you would have a receipt for that quilt. Therefore, it's insurable. But for the most part, if you're sending your quilt off, now I know that like Priority Mail comes with $50 of insurance. But from everybody that I have talked to, and I've talked to several different post office, and they all say the same thing. There's no way for them to know what the true value of that quilt is. So there's no sense of paying extra postage if the post office isn't going to guarantee it, pay you the insurance on it. So keep that in mind. Hi, Stephanie. Happy New Year. The other thing is, like Tiffany said, if you're having any problems, if you go in and change your setting on your, just touch the picture on your laptop or tablet or whatever, and then you click on the other button that brings up your video quality and change that to high resolution. It'll come in better too. Alright, so when I get a quilt, I have a customer quilt worksheet. I get their name, address, phone number, all that stuff. I write down the date I received it, the date I gave them an estimate, and the date when I completed it. I write down the name of the quilt, if the quilt had a name. I measure the top, and I measure the bottom. Okay, then I talk to the customer, and I find out what type of quilting do they want. Do they want edge to edge or edge to edge with a border that is different? Do they want mid-custom quilting or highly custom quilting? All four of those have a different price. Of course, the least expensive one is going to be edge to edge. Then we talk about batting. I have 80-20, and I have cotton batting, I have polyester batting. Where those work? Then I check mark whichever one they picked, or they mail me the batting. I charge for batting because batting goes up. Batting has gone up. But I know how much that roll of batting cost me. I figure out how much it is a yard, and that's what you get charged. So it's very reasonable. Not all Longarmers do that. Now, some of them, I used to not charge at all for it, and I just can't keep doing that. So now I think like here's one I'm looking at. I charged $6 for the batting, and that was a quilt that was 94 by 94. So it wasn't a whole heck of a lot. All right, then we talk about thread. We talk about the color of the thread, whether they want a specialty thread. I prefer to use cotton thread. Do you care what kind of thread you use? Do you prefer cotton thread? Do you want polyester thread? Does it matter to you? It matters to some people, but not everybody. I haven't had luck in my machine with polyester thread, so that's the main reason why I don't use it. I like the way the cotton looks, and I have a couple of different brands of cotton thread that I like to use. So we talk about thread. Like I said, I will take a thread if a customer wants a certain color and they want to provide it, as long as it's the brand I use, bring it on in. I don't charge for thread. That cost is included in my price, but some Longarmers do. I don't charge, I think I said this already. I ask the customer, do they want their quilt trimmed and squared up? Some say no. They like to do it themselves. Some say yes. Either way, I don't charge for that. That's part of the service. I ask them if they want their quilt, if they want me to bind it. Do they want me to bind it to the front, to the back? No binding at all. Now, binding is another cost, and binding can cost you almost as much as the quilting at some places. So, to have the binding quilted or sewn on, that is not by the square inch, but linear inch. So, for example, let's go back to the quilt that is 50 by 50. So 50 inches 50 inches, 50 inches, 50 inches. That's 200 inches. Let's say they charge 10 cents an inch. That's 20 bucks to have it just sewn around the front or the back one time around. 20 bucks. And then if you want them to do the back side stitched, it's going to cost the same thing. So that just costs you 40 bucks to have the binding put on the front and the back. Some places will do hand binding, some places don't. I don't offer that service. My hands can't take it. Now I do front and back binding for people, but most people will do their own binding. If you're going to want the Longarmer to do the binding, make sure that you have your binding prepped and ready to go. Don't expect them to cut it for you and iron it for you and all that unless you want them to charge you. Because I have made binding for people. They wanted me to use the leftover from the back. Well, I've got to cut that off. I got to, make it 2.5 inch strips or whatever. It's a lot of work. So when I do that, I charge by the hour. So then we talk about pattern design. And more than anything, I want to know what they don't like. Some people don't like feathers at all. I love to do feathers, but some people don't like feathers. So they'll say, so I really want to know, what don't you like? And then we talk about what you do like. What is their vision for the quilt? I do a lot of custom quilting, so I have to talk about a lot of detail with people. And sometimes, so I get a sense of what they're looking for, and then when I get the quilt out, I come up with the design, I draw it out, then I send a photo to the customer, and we talk about it if there's going to be any changes. A lot of my custom quilt customers just say, I trust you, and just make it pretty. So there's that. Those are the ones I like. Although I do like some direction. I don't want to sew anything on there, quilt anything on there that you're not going to like. If you don't like flowers or feathers or circles, then you need to let that person know. So, all right. So we've talked all about that, and then I'll write down what they like and what they don't like, and then if there's any other supplies. So that's basically what I do when I receive a quilt. And I put my little customer worksheet with the project, put it in the closet or on the long arm. All right, let's see if we have any questions. So good to see you too, Stephanie. Happy New Year. I'm not sure what Mary said. Wow, that's cheap. But maybe the binding. I don't think that's cheap. Oh, Tiffany. That's not good. She said she doesn't do any of that stuff. Here's my form I made on Excel. It has somebody else's name on it, so I didn't hold it up very long. So I've seen hourly rates go from anywhere from like $25 an hour to $45 an hour. That one lady that charges, that I was talking about earlier, that charges for the thread, she charges $45 an hour. And she's down in Texas. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Was this helpful at all? If I missed a question, if you could put it back in, because you you only get to save so many in the live chat, and then it won't let you go back any further. So, oh, good, Mary. Yes, your Longarmer will really appreciate it if you stay stitch or back stitch those seams, especially on the last borders. Definitely. Well, good, Jim. I'm glad it was helpful. Very helpful. Tiffany, I can send you a blank one of these sheets if you want. You can put 3-ring binder holes in it. Put it in a notebook. Then I kind of keep it like a portfolio. So I'll put this sheet in my binder. I usually have the design either drawn out in this little box here. If I need more room, I'll draw it out on the back. And then I have all kinds of notes, that I take. I do a lot of measuring when the quilt is on the long arm, because I want to make sure I'm always staying square, measuring and pinning. So I make a lot of notes, and then sometimes I will take a picture of the quilt and put it all together in the binder, and then that's like a portfolio. If I have customers who want to see what I've done, I have something to show them. Oh, that'd be a good job for Scott. All right, you guys. I'll wait a few more minutes, see if there's any questions. Um, yeah, so I have a customer who is a problem customer. I love her to death. I do. But she challenges me every time I get a quilt. And she knows who she is if she's watching this. So the last time I did a quilt for her, I did my sheet, and before I started any quilting at all, I had her sign it. I went through it. We went through the quilt, went through everything over. I made sure she completely understood it, and then I had her sign it. And then I would not give her the quilt until she paid me. You would think I'd quit quilting for her, but she's learning. Sometimes you have to train your customers. My husband's doing good. He's just kicking back, watching IDTV or Cops or something. Will is doing great. She's over here laying down with her new dog toy that she got for Christmas. Yeah, most people give me free range too. Like I said, I've only really had a problem with one person, and most everybody else I deal with. And I'm actually very picky about who I quilt for because I do mostly custom quilting. I will do edge to edge. You know, it's great to just do that once in a while so you can get her done. But um, yeah, they usually just pretty much give me free range. So, well, great, Ellen. I'm glad. I've seen a lot of people asking questions out there, and it's really hard to type it all in all the time. So I just thought I would do a video about it, and hopefully it helps some people. Because I really want you to feel comfortable when you're calling about, calling a Longarmer, and be sure and call more than one. Check around and yeah, check around. You're gonna find somebody that'll do it in your price range. You know, a lot of times, sometimes I will do a special where I'm just doing what's called get it done quilted. And it's just edge to edge, and um, you know, the density is like 3 by 3 or so. Oh, that's the other thing. Um, how dense you quilting you want on your quilting. I forgot to mention that. That's another good thing to know. And a lot of that should be based off of what batting you're using, because it'll tell you, how far apart your quilting can be. So the more thread, the more quilting you have, the more dense you have, the more it's going to cost you to get that quilted. So it might be, if you just want to get some quilts quilted, ask for the biggest separation, that you can for the least amount of price, and it'll still be pretty. It'll be quilted. It's better than sitting in the closet and not getting quilted. Right. Well, it's edge to edge. No, no, no. I can't agree with that. Well, if you call it that, then it gets really confusing, because quilt shops or professional quilters have these different categories. And to keep it clear, there's edge to edge with borders, there's mid custom quilting, and then there's custom quilting. Basically, because it is free motion, you are customizing it. But when you're doing edge to edge, it's, you know, a custom design, I guess I would say, or you're picking a design, and then um, that's already in a design book or something. But so yeah, I can kind of see your point, but the term custom quilting is heavily quilted quilt that each block is done individually. Um, but that's my opinion. And everybody has one. So there is that. Okay. Right, Nita. Custom is when you take the block design into account and quilt it accordingly. Right. Mary asked what kind of thread do I like. So I have signature thread. I really like signature thread. and it's a cotton. And then I also really like the thread from um, Connecting Threads. There's not that much difference in it. There's a little bit of difference in the price, but they're still both pretty good quality thread. I don't use Aurifil because those threads, or the ones that I have used, are 2-ply, and they just break all the time in my long arm. So I don't even use them because I got tired of that. No matter how much I loosened it up, it just doesn't like 2-ply thread. Now I know some people, that thread is pretty expensive. And I don't think that the more the expensive the thread is, the better. I've tried them all. And I don't think that Aurifil has less lint than Signature, or um, the other thread I use. Geez, I wish I could remember the name of it. Economy? I can't remember what it's called. No, I don't think Signature is from Superior. Stephanie, do you know? Stephanie might know that. Stephanie can't use Aurifil in hers either. And Stephanie has the same brand of machine I do, a Unique. So that might be... no. Superior has Masterpiece and King Tut. And Omni thread. And I have some of that. Yeah, Tiffany uses Glide, and the cotton, yeah, the cotton threads do make a mess in the bobbin area. I clean out my bobbin area every new bobbin, and a lot of times I just check it. You know, if I've been quilting for a while and the bobbin's still going, I'll take a peek down there, because what happens when you get a lot of lint in your bobbin area, well, it'll pull up through, and then it'll try to pull up through the quilt, and then it'll make this big linty spot on the back of the quilt. That's one thing it does. And the other thing is it drops out on the table and on the rollers, and then you bump into it. When you're doing a custom quilt and you hit that lint on your rollers, yeah, it goes not good. Stephanie uses Denise if she needs poly. Yes, I do piece with Aurifil. Definitely. I do like it for piecing. Yeah. When I can find it on sale. I like it because it's a thinner thread, or if I don't use Aurifil, then I like to use like a a 50 weight cotton thread in a different brand, because it's a little thinner. Yeah, I really like it to piece with, but it does leave lint in the bobbin area. So Angie wants to know, what's the difference between 30 weight thread and 50 weight thread? Is one better over the other? 100% cotton thread for quilting. Well, the 30 weight thread is going to be pretty heavy. So It depends on if you really want to see the quilting, the thread on top of your quilt. If you really like that thread look, then use a heavier thread. I have never used a 30 weight thread. I usually use a 40 or 50. I would use like a 30 for like hand quilting or hand applique. The other thing is the thread, and you can test this at home. Maybe you have some cotton thread at home or polyester thread at home, and look at them. If the weights are the same, let's say your polyester is a cotton is a 40 weight, fill those. Definitely, you can tell that the polyester thread is thinner, feels different. It's more of a sheen to it, and the cotton thread's going to feel a little thicker. So with polyester thread, I might use, a 30 weight because it's probably going to be more like a 40 weight cotton, as an example. Yeah, I've been thinking about, I've heard on the Longarm Facebook group that I belong to, a lot of those ladies use glide thread. And I've thought about getting me a spool of that and trying it out and seeing. I've tried superior polyester threads, and it just doesn't work well in my machine. So I don't know. I'd be willing to try the glide. But that's really up to each individual person of what kind of thread you want on your quilt. I don't think there's anything wrong with using polyester thread on your quilt. But some people are cotton purists, and they don't, they just want it all to be cotton, and that's fine too. I honestly, once the thread is down, you really can't tell that by looking at it, And what are the chances that you're going to iron your quilt and leave your iron on there and burn your thread? You're not going to do that. Glide is so clean that how many glide is do you know what ply that is, Tiffany? Stephanie, have you tried glide? If Stephanie, are you still there? And have you tried glide on your machine? Tiffany has ironed the glide and has had no issues. That's great. I think, I kind of feel like this ironing the thread polyester is like an old wise tale, or back in the day, a long time ago, when polyester thread first came out, and the irons used to be heated on the wood stove, and so they were too hot, and so the thread melted. I don't think that happens anymore. Honestly, I don't. One of these days, maybe I'll try it and see. But I've never had a problem. Okay, she thinks it's 2-ply. All right. So it's a real lightweight thread. Yes, only works for me if I use something different in the bobbin. It's a pain. Uh, so sometimes I will use cotton on the top and a polyester blend on the bottom, because polyester um, is a lighter weight thread or thinner thread. You can get more of that thread on your bobbin. Jim also has had no problem with polyester thread. Okay. Alrighty. Do we have any more long arm questions? Well, I really hope this helped. If you have any more questions, you can always put them in the comments after the video posts. I'll just wait a few minutes and see if there's any more questions. Oh boy. So I gotta go eat dinner. Maybe play with the dog a little bit. Did you guys see that I done with that quilt there? Glide is 40 weight. I'm not sure how to pronounce that word. Mary. Mary says she learned so much. And the other Longarmers. I know it was great having two other Longarmers on here tonight. I don't think Jim has a long arm, but he still quilts on his domestic machine. Yeah. So thread weight, the lower the number, like 30 weight, 20 weight, 10 weight, the heavier, thicker that's going to be. The higher the number, 40, 50, 60, 70, or 80, 100, then it gets thinner and thinner and thinner as you go. It's just the opposite for like needle sizes. Yeah, so 30 weight definitely would be heavier than 50. Now, I would save that thread for some hand stitching, whatever you're going to do. I don't think I would use it to actually sew with. Get yourself some 40 weight or 30 weight. All right, see you later, Brenda. Happy New Year. Yep, I'm going to go. Everybody, let's say goodnight. And Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, you guys are awesome. Don't forget, Tiffany is coming on later. Tiffany's Quilting Life around 11:15 tonight to her time to ring in the new year. And she's having a giveaway. So I hope I can stay up. I might have to set my alarm, Tiffany. All right. Good night, everybody. So glad you were here. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.